Welcome to Mad About Money. This is the podcast that talks everything money. I'm Maddy Alexander-Grout, and I am joined by Craig Smith from Just Lend, who has recently risen to fame on Dragon's Den. So I contacted him after watching the show because I thought he would be an amazing guest. I really, really get what he's trying to achieve. And my first question for him is, Craig, first of all, hi, thanks for coming on.
Hello, lovely to meet you, Maddy. Nice to be on.
It's great to have you. My first question, because I want to know all about your background, because I feel like on Dragon's Den, they don't really quiz you that much. You know, it's just, what's your story? Where are you at? What are you trying to achieve? There's no like, who is Craig? And I want to know who is Craig. So my first question for you is, what is your money story?
What is my money story? Where to begin?
Begin at the beginning.
I guess, blimey. So if I'm thinking about my money story, I come from not having a huge amount of money.
Excellent. I think most successful entrepreneurs do. So
I've always liked, I'm just trying to think, and I've always been quite a savvy saver, I guess. And I've always been telling my friends to save money. Not that they always listen to me.
I have that same problem.
Part of where this whole thing came from, what I'm doing now. But how do I? I don't even know where to begin. I lived in Guardian housing for a bit. If you know Guardian housing,
yeah.
So when it was very, very cheap, so I used to live in like empty buildings.
Oh wow!
So, but where I pay £180 a month to live in Covent Garden.
Wow.
So I guess these are some of the things that I've done. I've lived in a lot of places to kind of save on money.
So let's start from the beginning then. So like, what was your childhood like?
What was my childhood like?
Yeah.
What's my childhood like? I come from a lovely family. I'd say, oh man, I'm not very good at this. I come from a lovely family.
You are very good at this. It's all right. Keep going. We'll get there.
My mum's a teacher. My dad's a lawyer. So like my mum's a bit frivolous with cash, maybe.
Okay.
I don't really want to upset my mum. And then my dad on the other side is kind of quite pernickety with money and like very cautious about it. So that would probably.
So you probably grew up somewhere in the middle then.
Somewhere in the middle of that. That's exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, and what did you do? Did you go to college or university or anything?
Talking about being savvy with money, I was very involved in UK youth politics as a kid.
Okay.
So very involved in politics, and I got a sponsorship to go to university through British Telecom. So they helped pay for my uni. So that's how I managed to save quite a lot on uni fees.
Brilliant.
And I also got bursaries at university as well, so grants from university. So
nice.
I was kind of looking at it from that perspective as well.
And where did you go?
Westminster.
Oh, nice. So that must have been quite expensive.
The same cost at every other university in the country. So
but just in terms of like cost of living. So like, were you a party student or were you a little bit more reserved?
Well, I would work for BT 1 or 2 days a week while I was also at university.
Okay.
That would be what I would. So I wouldn't be a party student. I don't know. That just sounds to me. No, I wasn't a party student. I wasn't not a party student. I was just a student. I guess I was a bit more savvy, I guess, on understanding where you could get the grants from and stuff like that as well, right?
And that really helps, right?
Yeah,
really helps. So
because
what was it?
Was very, very good at university grants. Like they were probably one of the best universities for grants when it comes to to cover fees and stuff like that in the country.
Nice.
Which a lot of people don't know. So that was one of the things I quite liked about Westminster Uni.
Brilliant. Yeah. So you came out of university with not really much debt.
A little bit of debt, but not a huge amount of debt. I've now actually finished paying off my university fees. So
amazing.
I feel quite blessed in that situation. Yeah.
Fabulous. So what did you do work-wise then when you left uni?
Well, So this is going to sound a bit bizarre. I was a scuba diving journalist for a little bit in
That's
Egypt.
cool.
So I found a job on Escape the City to basically because I worked for the BBC, because I worked for BT, it meant that gave me opportunities in the corporate comms function there. So I learned about journalism and I learned about PR a bit. And then I was like, yeah, travel abroad. I wanted to travel, and there was a scuba diving journalist job going up where I get to travel the whole of the Red Sea. So I traveled the Red Sea and wrote about scuba diving sites. Now I didn't get paid much. I think I got paid £400 a month to do it, but I got to travel the whole of the Red Sea and write about scuba divers and scuba diving sites. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
that was quite nice. Yeah, so I did that, and then after that, I had the option of 2 jobs. I had the option to join a big corporate, or join a startup, and I decided to join the startup because I thought that would be
that's brave.
there. So I spent 6 years there.
And what was the startup you worked for?
It was in navigation and mapping. So it was called NavFree. So talk about mapping, like Martin Lewis wrote a lot about it. So we had about 10% of the UK population using it. But I joined it in that earlier app stage and saw how that grew over a period of time.
So that gave you an entrepreneurial flair?
It did. Actually, I bumped into the chap on the street corner while I was trying to set up pretty much Just Lend before that. And he kind of diverted me away. Actually, at that point, I don't even know if this story is going to make sense, but I was going to volunteer for a church for a year. And that basically, I was going to live in the church vicarage and volunteer. But basically, there was going to be 2 boys and 2 girls volunteering. The 2 girls couldn't find a place to live in London because the rent was too high. So we gave our place up, and I actually lived in a car in that church vicarage for a period of time because I wanted to be in the city. So talk about grit and determination. That's what I did for a season. Yeah.
Was it in winter?
It may have been, actually.
Oh gosh.
I'm not entirely sure, but don't look at that's just grit of like wanting to be in Bethnal Green, East London, and yeah, I just wanted to like be in the buzz, and that was what I did for a period.
That's impressive.
Even my friends lived in the car with me for a bit, which was quite funny. So yeah.
What kind of car was it?
Renault Scenic.
Oh wow. I mean, they're not like the most spacious cars, are they?
They're not the most spacious cars. So I did that, and I was wandering the streets. I would wander the streets, and yeah, I was trying to find developers in the East End, and I was wandering the streets trying to find developers, and that's how I bumped into Peter and joined the navigation mapping app. But I was looking for developers for kind of the Just Lend idea, because it was about helping somebody with their goal or aspiration. At that point, the 2 girls were trying to find rent, right? So there's a bunch of different
lots of things all coming together to kind of
that was one of it. And I was like really disheartened that they couldn't do what they wanted to do, or I couldn't do what I wanted to do either there because of a rent problem. So
I love that. I really love that. So the idea for Just Lend came from.
It comes across a bit wacky. So
well, I mean, it's not the most concise of stories. So I think maybe from a Dragon's Den point of view, if you'd have gone really into that, they'd have been like, "What is this going on about?"
Trust me, I had a lot of people, do that. So,
but it's interesting. It's really interesting, and I think you can tell that the idea came from you actually wanting to help somebody. That was quite obvious from the show. So was it just the fact that you wanted to create something that helped people that was your main ambition behind it?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things that kind of came about. So that's just one example, right? Then we talk about a few years later, and so I'm now working at this navigation mapping firm, and I'm kind of earning a salary and but then there are other friends that weren't so diligent, right, on the savings front as me, I guess, in the sense of how I lived in Guardian housing, etc. And I'm like, you can't pay, I don't know. I got really upset actually that some of my friends were paying £800 a month rent for a room, box room, and it still actually annoys me that these are the costs of things. But
it's horrible, isn't it? It's genuinely obscene how much some of these things cost.
yeah, and I think it's higher than that now. So even the Guardian housing, which I lived in, which was looking after an empty property, I think now is like £600-700 a month. So where I was doing it for £180, like I find that absolutely crazy. But that was me trying to find new ways. Sorry, what was your question? I've lost the question. I've lost
it as well. So you're kind of the method behind the madness in
different reasons. So basically, a lot of my friends, one of the other things is a lot of my friends were leaving London after a while because they couldn't afford to be here, and I really hated the fact of losing my community. So I got really also frustrated that basically people left London because they couldn't afford to be here anymore. And so we'd lost our neighborhood, and my uni friends and other friends. And that was one of the other things that upset me. So that was another piece of it. Like, could we club together to help people stay? And then there was another friend in debt. So, and it was about helping that friend too. So there's 3 stories that kind of amalgamated in all of this happening.
Amazing.
Very different use cases, I guess. But
so for those because there are going to be some people who are listening who haven't heard of Just Lend before, what do you do? Explain to me what you do.
So what we do is we allow people to borrow money from their family and friends, but the borrower is in complete control of the interest rates and the repayments. So they set the interest rates and they set the terms. So what we're trying to do is create kind of a safe, secure, straightforward structure when it comes to loans between family and friends.
And that's a really great model. And from speaking from personal experience, I wish that I had known about this before the crowdfunding that I did, because the crowdfunding that we did was quite difficult and quite hard. And actually, the majority of people who invested in our campaign were friends and family. They invested for shares, but really, lending would have been potentially an easier way for us to do it. So I know that you're kind of very supportive of the small business community and people who are trying to raise money to get their businesses to the next level as well. Tell me a bit about that.
I'd say it's individuals that are trying to maybe start their businesses, right? So
yes, yeah.
It might be described as the family and friends round, and this is kind of what's happened off the back of Dragon's Den. Is that you could be a gardener and you've got like 10 clients, but you now want a bigger van, right? So for more tools, which I think is a story that we're going to be sharing soon. And I think, and it's kind of like, actually, why not go to a few of my customers or friends and borrow a little bit of money off them to kind of get that bigger van, right? And so that's an example. Or it could be, I've got an idea for boiled sweets, and this is another chap in Scotland who wants to kind of get the equipment for those boiled sweets. And so again, kind of going to his network to do that. So I guess that's quite interesting in the terms of, you can do it in a loan format rather than giving away equity, I guess, in your business. I think it's, on that side, it really depends on what, I guess it's an education piece, right? It's another option, right, to crowdfunding in terms of the platforms that are out there for that. It's very, very different. It's
absolutely. And also
they're more community projects as well, which is what I really love. So the stories that I get really passionate about is a football club. They're looking after 10-year-old kids. I never imagined that our platform would be used for this. So you're looking after 50 10-year-olds and you train them on a Saturday, and it's the parents investing in your business so you can take not 50 kids, 100 kids, because they couldn't do capacity. And that is just, talk about community project. And then we're visiting a swimming school tomorrow. So that wants to expand his swimming school. So
it's lovely. It's really nice. And
Yeah.
You know, from my perspective, community is key to anything. It's key to supporting. And you know, as somebody who is, you know, just about to launch a community money app, you know, actually by the time we've launched it, this podcast will be in it. You know, it's, for me, community is really key. I wouldn't have been able to get myself out of debt had it not been for the community around me. If this had been around when I was in that much debt, I think my friends saw me in so much trouble and with so much heartache that, you know, I think my friends would have much rather I borrowed the money from them, you know, here and there, bits and bobs, to pay off my debts. And then I owed it to my friends and I paid it off gradually, than me being in so much trouble with, you know, all of the bailiffs and people who were chasing me, I think. But that's my story, you know, that was how it happened. And you know, it's such is life. But yeah, I really do feel like community is so helpful in these situations.
Actually, so we've talked about the business side of things, and that's like the lovely side.
Mm.
I really am passionate about this other side too, and this is like what you were talking about, the debt. One of the things that we've seen since Dragon's Den is people, they actually said, in some people, one of us described us as a lifesaver. Now because of financial anxiety. So this I didn't really understand. So in the sense that she didn't know how to talk to her family and friends about money. And so people don't talk to their family and friends about money. And she was like, I use the Just Learn platform because like it was a way in which I could share my financial, it was a way in which I could reach out to my grandparents, and it's a way I could reach
without
out
the shame.
Without the shame. But it was, yeah, and I'm still trying to understand a bit more about, I think it's because of how things are said on the platform, but I'd love us to create a culture where
people talk about money.
Everybody should be able to talk about money and not feel like everyone needs somebody to talk about money with. And that's close to them, that cares about them.
Even talking to strangers and just knowing that you're not alone, you know, the amount of messages that I get every single day from people who are worried about money on my TikTok because they know that I help people with their finances is just insane. And that was one of the reasons why you know, the Mad About Money app needed to be created, because it had to be somewhere where people talk. You know, I think the only thing that got me through my money problems was talking about it and not being ashamed. When I closed my last business, I went from being debt free to inheriting loads of debt again, because you know, that's just what happens when you close a business. But the difference was I openly spoke about it. I went and I posted on my LinkedIn and I told everybody that I just inherited this massive debt. And everyone was like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine, because I know what I'm doing and I'm talking about it. And it's when you bury your head in the sand and you don't talk about these things that they get worse. Yeah. So having a community of people who are either going through the same thing as you, or happy to support you, or happy to lend money to you, is really important. And that's you know, that's the best thing about community. So I think what you're doing is absolutely the right thing, and it's the right time for it, because people are struggling now.
We're still trying to learn about this though, and I think this is it is a really hard, like we see a number of people come onto our platform and I think they're looking for an angel, or they're looking for somebody to come and support them in their story. And yeah, we don't offer that as an option.
No.
It's not about strangers supporting her for us anyway. It's and so I'm trying to figure out how we can help people to talk more to people they know about their financial situation.
Yeah. It's really important, important.
We have broken a barrier though, for sure. There's a large number now that are talking to people, and we have an idea that, you know, it normally is a friend that you would go to. And so, and we see like people sharing it with like one or two people when it comes to certain types of things. So I guess when we talk about debt, or we talk about really personal things, when it comes to a business, we see a very, very different logic. But yeah, I was speaking to Amy, I guess, on the budgeting on her stuff, and I was just saying, we just everyone needs someone to speak to about money. That's just,
They do. Yeah, they really do.
Sorry, just that really. It's sad that there's a lot of people out there that don't have someone that they can talk about money to, and how I'm getting really fed up with banks. Actually, I was saying this, that they're saying, come and talk to, like, you should talk to your bank about your financials, but it's like they're pretending to be your family in some way, or
and they're not always helpful.
Friends. No,
the banks were the reason that I got into so much debt. I went to university, I went to Freshers' Fair, and when I walked in, there were the banks. They were like, hey, take this loan, take this credit card. We're going to give you a £50 gift voucher for everything that you take out. So I took out everything to get the £50 gift vouchers. And I was young and naive, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just went spend crazy. And then next thing I knew, I was in 40 grand's worth of debt, and it's really hard. So banks are not always the answer. Charities like Step Change, they're the ones who are really making waves in this area. And money influencers, like Amy, and like there's so many of them on TikTok, who are out there trying to make a difference, actually talking about debts, that really helps. And that's the thing that makes people feel less ashamed of it and less alone. So let's talk a little bit. Let's move on to something a bit more cheery. Let's talk a little bit about your Dragon's Den experience. Tell me about that.
It was really nerve-wracking.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So I guess where would you like me to begin? It was a 3-hour process.
Yeah, tell me start to finish, all of it. I want to know the ins and the outs as much as you can tell me.
So I guess the beginning parts are, I got up there the night before. I was practicing my 3 minutes pitch, so speech, because you can speak for 3 minutes before.
Okay, yeah.
Questions and answer comes in, and making sure I'd memorized that, and talking about kind of the positives and negatives of the of like borrowing and lending money between family and friends. And then I memorized that quite well. I went and memorized my financials, because you can't take any paperwork.
That's hard.
Actually, that's not quite true. They said that
you kind of like scribble on the back of your hand, kind of.
So like they actually allowed me to take some paperwork in, but they said you're not really allowed to use it. So actually, I did have some paperwork behind the screen, but then, so for example, on the things that I didn't know the answers to that well, but they weren't allowing me, when the actual lights came up, they didn't allow me to pull any of that information out, which I was like, oh, I don't know what I think about that. But yeah, so it was interesting. I saw the other people as well beforehand. So there were other contestants, and I saw them.
Because I'm assuming they film it all in one day or like 2 days, because they're all wearing the same clothes. All the dragons, they're all wearing the same clothes, unless they just wear them for days.
I don't know the ins and outs, but
they film a few people at the same
time. For
example,
I think they do 3 in a day. So, but I think they may wear the same clothes because they don't know which
episode. That makes more sense. That does make more sense.
Put the same people of the same on the same show, right? I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe
so they have
different days.
That makes a lot more sense.
So yeah, so because I didn't see a bed product on my day, so
no.
Yeah, so I saw someone in I don't even know. I've not been watching the Dragon's Den's episodes, so I don't know if some of the others have appeared or not yet. So I can't.
Oh no, you can't say anything. No, that's crazy. There's been some interesting ones recently. So yeah, there was. In fact, I think it was a couple of weeks after you were on. There was a clip, and I went, "Oh my god, that's my friend! I know that girl. I know that girl."
Which one was that?
Zoe from Kiddie Whiz. The little porta potties. Don't know if you've seen them.
I've not seen.
But they're so bright. They're so bright and so colourful that. And I just saw her, and it was just out of the corner of my eye, and I knew it was her. So I messaged her on Instagram. She was like, "You're not supposed to know. How do you know?" And I was like, "I've just seen it." She wasn't on till the next week. So yeah, it's really interesting to watch. And I always watch with intent. And for me, it's finding people to network with. I've always been a big believer in everybody help, in the entrepreneur world, it's hard. And if you've got experiences that you can share with other people, then I feel like that's how you should do business. So I always if I like somebody, I don't reach out to somebody if their product is crap. So, you should feel privileged. But some of the other people that I've had on the podcast, is because, I've really liked their story. I've liked the product, and, it's something that I feel like I could be passionate about promoting. So there were some guys on last night who did this matcha, like a matcha drink. And I was like, that looks really cool. So I messaged them as well. So we'll see.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so what was the most scary part? What were the dragons actually like?
It was, so what you don't see from my 10-minute clip is that I was in there for, I think, 2.5 hours. I think 2.5, 3 hours. So I was in there. It was a long time.
They get to know you quite well then.
I got there at 7 a.m. I don't know what time filming was like on at 9 or something like that. I can't remember exact times, but like I was in there for a long time. So
that makes you nervous.
Yeah. So yeah, I was kind of like, oh, and then I guess, yeah, you don't know everything about your business. I mean, well, maybe you should know everything about your business, but I'm not an expert in every field of my business. So
But none of us are. I think they do expect you to know too much sometimes.
Yeah. So or some of the answers to the questions, which I got quite. So for example, on the domains, not knowing sort of. Oh no, I don't think that was actually in one of the questions.
I think it was, yeah.
So justlen.com. Everyone was searching justlen.com afterwards, and why I don't own justlen.com. And I was like, Peter Jones asked me, said like, who owns justlen.com? And I said, I don't know who owns justlen.com. And the reason I didn't know is I did get a broker to try and find justlen.com, but nobody knows who owns justlen.com.
No.
Because even in a search, it's hidden somewhere. And maybe I didn't say that in the right way, because you can't actually find out who owns Justlen.
No, and I feel your pain on that, because I've done exactly the same thing with mine. So when I set up Mad About Money, there was some really, somebody's taken the domain name, but nobody actually is using it. And that's the annoying thing. They just take good ones just for shits and giggles. And then they don't give it to you. So I went with Mad About Money Official. And I'm just like, well, I'm still annoyed about that. But at the same time, I've got my new logo, which has got like a little pound sign, which looks like it's a trademark logo. So I've played with it and it's fun. But yeah, I feel your pain. It is annoying.
That was one of the things that frustrated me. I have to say, off the back of Dragon, before it aired, there was I also hadn't bought justlen.co.uk.
That's quite a mistake.
No, well, actually, no, you say that though, but I was a small startup. We're paying now, but like that's a £4,000 or £5,000 to buy that domain, right?
Is it? Oh wow, is it that big?
Again, you kind of look at these things and kind of go, that's an investment, right? To buy that domain name. So there was a lot of heat from people saying, "Oh my goodness, he doesn't own this domain name. He doesn't own that domain name," and I'm like, "Oh, but guys, these are big investments that you've got to make." So yeah, we do own justlen.co.uk. So anyone that was searching after the show, yes, we do own it.
Brilliant.
But yeah, at that point, yeah. Anyway, there were so many bits like that. Like I think people had conversations around the trademark. So why hadn't we trademarked our name? So we had have
you trademarked it now?
Wait, so this is like, I couldn't explain this on the show. So we actually had a legal discussion with another group who had no beforehand. So we can use the trademark for certain things, and they used it for other things, right, that are not. But again, so we couldn't have it for certain reasons. Just these are learnings as you go along, right? I guess.
Of course they are. Yeah, of course they are.
I'm not an expert in these fields.
No, do you know what I did? But again, I feel your pain. So, I've literally in the last week just gone on the trademarking process for Mad About Money. And I was like, well, I don't really I need to trademark Mad About Money, but I also need to trademark MA Money, because that's the app name, is my money essentially.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, and I actually went down the route where I was going to call it MAMO, Mad About Money Official, like as an acronym. But there is another finance app in like somewhere like Dubai or somewhere where I was just like, oh, if someone Googles this, they're going to come up. And like, there's so many things that you've got to think about when you're running a business that you don't necessarily, unless you've done it before, you wouldn't necessarily think about. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I hadn't thought about, but not just also had you thought about that, there's a cost as well, right? To doing all of that.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know, I may be different to some other people, but how much does it cost to kind of trademark something?
It is £170 per category plus the admin fee. So you're looking at 100 and over £200 per category that you're trademarking.
Yeah,
So
we went through this once we kind of raised a little bit anyway, and kind of started to go through those process and make sure that we had the rights to kind of do that stuff. We did it. But if you're starting out, do you recommend that, like, if you're starting a small business, to go out and trademark these things? I'm intrigued in this.
I would, yeah, I would recommend it. I think
if you're setting up, if you're setting up a small business.
yeah, but then it's, do you have enough money to sue somebody? So my old business, I trademarked that, and then somebody started, because it was a rewards based business, and the word VIP is a word that people use a lot with rewards. I trademarked that business, but could I go and sue this big massive shopping centre that were doing VIP rewards? Probably not, no, because they've probably got a hell of a lot more money than me, and I didn't have the time or the energy or the effort to do it. The way I saw it was like, every time they were mentioning their VIP rewards, they were sending business to me, so it was all good. But would I recommend people trademarking? I would say yes, but it depends what you want to do with it. If you're starting a lifestyle business that's just going to pay your salary, that you have no intention of ever growing to be anything more than something that's just going to pay your salary every month, probably not worth it. How much do you care about your name? Is that really important?
Well, you look at Monzo, right? They were Mondo, so
were they?
Yeah, because they didn't have the trademark, right? So
I did not know that. Do you know what? Monzo is a much better name, isn't it? So maybe that did them a favor.
But they didn't have the trademark, right? And I'm just wondering, when is the right time to make that jump? So and we're talking here about money and saving people money, right? I don't know the answer here, right? But if I don't have a lot of money and I'm trademarking that in half a dozen categories, that's an awful lot of money before I've even started making it.
It is. I would say it depends what your business does. I would trademark in at least the main thing that you do. So for me, for example, the Mad About Money app will be trademarked in financial education, because that's what it's going to be. But eventually I will probably go down the route of trademarking it in like business advertising, for example, because that's again something that we do. But how likely is it that you're going to get another app or another website called Mad About Money that's going to come along and go, I do business advertising? Probably not going to happen, is it? Really, you've got to think about it in kind of literal terms, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's tricky. Every question that I was asking, right, I think is tricky than it.
I think they gave you a little bit of a hard time. I remember, I was sweaty palmed for you. I thought, this poor chap, he's gone in with a really great idea, and they're ripping him a new one. Like, I really did feel like they were quite maybe unnecessarily mean to you. We all have to start somewhere, and I think your idea is really good, and but in the end, you got two offers from two dragons. So tell us a bit about that.
That was good. That was very, very good. I was quite overwhelmed when I got given the offers, and if
I was a bit shocked because of how horrible they've been to you. I was thinking, this poor guy, he's not going to get anything. He's going to end up with nothing, and he's like gone on, and it's scary.
You didn't see it all as well. Like Peter Jones thought the idea was fantastic at the beginning. I don't think you see that much from him at all. Like
No.
how he lent money to a friend, and if something like Just Lend existed, would have been great. So that was the beginning of it. I was kind of
Because it provides security for the lender, doesn't it? Which is
or for example, he had to pay thousands of pounds in legal fees to build out those contracts, right, for his friend. And and if we'd existed, he would have saved himself thousands of pounds. So I think that's but that kind of gets cut out, right? So but
is there a minimum that somebody can, completely off topic? I mean, it's not off topic because I would have been asking you about it a bit towards the end, but is there a minimum that somebody can borrow?
It's a couple of £100, so that's where we're at. It's like £250. So that's the minimum. We don't go lower than that because there's a bunch of fees as well that we've got.
Of course,
to pay. This wouldn't make sense. I'd like to help with smaller amounts for people, but I just don't think it's possible at this stage anyway. But
that makes sense.
We kind of go up to £10,000, so that's the highest sum that we go up to. Although since Dragon's Den, we've been asked by some very high net worths if we'd do something for that community. So a community I've never even thought about. So
I mean that is very interesting, and I think that there's a lot more that's going to come for Just Lend. So what does the future hold? What's going on at the moment for you guys?
So currently we're going out and kind of doing a roadshow and meeting all these different people that are starting to use our platform. So we'll start to see all of these. One of the things we've been told from a lot of our users is that I can't see the testimonies, I can't see people. And we're like, okay, well, that's great, fine, we understand that. So myself and Finn, one of my colleagues, we're going out and meeting all of these people and interviewing them. So that's kind of the next stage. So the idea is putting that up. Another on the product side of things, we saw thousands of people come in from a lender's perspective. So we create campaigns from a borrower's perspective. So the borrower shares their story and then they invite lenders to support them.
Okay.
What we also saw is a lot of lenders wanted to create contracts to give to the person they want to support. So we're just building that out, and that should hopefully be out in the next couple of weeks. So those are the two immediate things. We're going to, I guess, on the bigger side of things, what can I say? So we've got, I guess now we're a very minor celebrity and kind of the brand's getting some awareness. We're getting to speak at a few events. So I'm quite excited about that. So we're speaking at Money Live next week. And then we've just been told that we'll speak at Money 2020, which is great. And hopefully we'll be able to speak at some small business events as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But so I think those are some of the things that we've got coming up. I don't know what those. Oh, and the other cool thing next year is we plan to bring out a card.
Ooh, that's cool.
So that's part of my vision, to build out a card so you can start to see so basically you can top that card up and that card can be spent on what you said you're going to spend it all, right? So providing even more transparency in that family and friends process.
That's really cool. I like that. That's really good, because I think there are so many barriers, and I mean, if I said to my mum, I want to borrow £500 for this one thing. In fact, I did borrow some money from my mum actually, only recently. I would have absolutely loved to have been able to just have a payment plan where there was visibility and being able to pay it back, rather than her constantly nagging me going, when are you going to pay that £500 back? When are you going to pay that £500 back? She's not like that, but if she was, I could see where that barrier would come in. So I think
That's the
It's a good
solve
thing.
for the financial anxiety piece. That
Yes.
so actually, like, one of the things is just because you have a lender having an expectation that if you borrow £2,000, you're going to pay it back miraculously in like a couple of months. And so that may be the lender's perspective, because you've never spoken about it really. And then the borrower's perspective is, no, this is really going to take me like 2 years or so. It's that's the problem, right? It's not actually, you want to help people, but there just needs to be some structure. And that was
structurizing. I just made a word up there, and that's totally not a word.
Some good ways to explain it, but it's but
putting the structure behind lending and borrowing.
I'll take that. I'll trademark it.
Okay, fine. All right, you can pay me later. I think that, I mean, that should be probably your slogan. I think, maybe I should come and do your marketing for you. I hope. But yeah, putting structure behind borrowing and lending, that's exactly what you guys do. And I think it's so important. And I really think that this is going to be massively successful. I do wish you all the best, because I think I sound like I wish you all the best, but I'm out.
or on the night we had 187,000 people come to our site. So,
wow.
And since then, I think you're the first to know this, like, publicly, we've had now 350, I think 315,000 people have visited our website in the last month.
That's amazing.
So the numbers of people coming are astronomical.
Wow.
So yeah,
congratulations. I mean, that is absolutely epic. And I know you've got some exciting things coming, so I think in 6 months' time, I think we'll get you back on. I want to see an update from you guys and see where the business has gone and where it's heading. I think there's a lot more to come.
I don't know, but I'm hoping it's a real success. But and I just love the different types of people that are coming on. It's just, it blows my mind, the types of characters that we've got coming on our site. So those are the people. I love it. I love every single use case. So
that's amazing. Well done, Craig. Honestly, I'm so pleased for you. It's really exciting. How do people find you?
So not justlend.com, but actually so if you type in justlend.co on Google, that's probably the best way to find us. I think if you type in Just Lend now, we'll also come up top, which is quite nice.
Brilliant.
But and I think also if you're on social media, I think these are other channels now as well. So I think it's just Lend across TikTok,
everywhere,
etc. This
social media.
So.
And I really hope that you will hang around in the Mad About Money app as well, and give people your presence, because I feel like we're good. It's the place where people are going to be talking about money, so you will fit in absolutely there. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been absolutely wonderful to have you. So Craig from Just Lend. This has been Mad About Money. I'm Maddy Alexander-Grout, and you can learn more about me at madaboutmoneyofficial.co.uk. See you next time.
Okay, thank you very much.